My name is Calixta, and here we are today at the polytunnels of Flourish Produce. So we're an organic farm in Cambridgeshire. We grow on 80 acres of field scale production and have about 1.8 acres of indoor production. So the farm is 7 years old. I started initially on just 2 acres. So it's definitely evolved, but we've sort of maintained some of the original values of growing a lot of diverse produce and of course also abiding by the organic standards. The large amount of varieties that we grow is founded initially just in my sort of passion for growing weird and wonderful stuff. I was very fortunate to work for some farms in the past in the States that focused on growing for chefs and that grew lots of unusual things from Asia or from across the world, and that sort of really ignited my passion as something that we've brought on here. So at Flourish this season we're growing around 675 varieties, which is very unusual for a farm of our scale. And the way that it works is we have some sort of strong contenders that we grow every year. They're sort of like the workhorses of the farm, and then we often also will do a series of trials for new crops. And part of that is also the fact that we want to grow lots of different things for the environmental benefits of spreading our risk. You know, if it's a terribly wet year, our salads and our greens will absolutely love it, even if our aubergines and our peppers won't. And if we have very dry periods, there are other crops that do well. So that biodiversity piece is really, really important in terms of the sort of long-term sustainability of the farm. This is our prop house. So one thing that's quite special about us is that we grow every single thing we grow from seed ourselves. So again, most farms of our size would normally work with a nursery to grow the baby plants that they would then plant out in their fields and tunnels. But for us, we've really committed to growing our own and invested in sort of the infrastructure to be able to do that. Because for us, again, with the unusual varieties that are so important to what we do, we source the seed from all over the world, and then we need to grow it ourselves, because obviously the nurseries, as amazing of a job that they do, they obviously can't grow the varieties that we would like. And when things are grown to the adequate size in here, we'll set them out in our protected area to harden off and get used to the outdoor weather, where they're not as sort of coddled as they are in here, and then they get planted out elsewhere. So along with the sort of growing and the harvesting we're also doing all the propagation right from seed right to the very end product, which is something that we really think is important in terms of what we do. So this is our agroforestry field, where we're growing fruit mixed in with our field crops. So right here we've got our gooseberries plants that are just finishing, and we've got some currants down there, and then this is one of our radicchio blocks. So radicchio is one of our sort of big winter crops that we grow. I think we're growing, I'm not exactly sure how many varieties off the top of my head, but definitely up there, close between 50 and 60. And all of our seeds are from Italy, so we're trialling lots of different varieties as well as growing ones that we've grown many times. And then we've got a range of different things here. These are primarily Palo Rossa, which are the traditionally very beautiful red round heads with the white veins. But then we've got Lucias, lots of different Rosalbas, kinds of Treviso that will be forcing as well as just growing in the field. So it's a really big range, and they're enjoying their time out here, definitely getting pecked on by some of the birds and the deer. We have a very big pressure of wildlife here, because we're sort of like the Flourish salad bar, so everyone comes and tries to get their fair share. So eventually we'll be netting these to try and protect them from some of the wildlife, but for now they look pretty wonderful out here. Here we're growing, you can kind of see some of the diversity of the crop offering we have, and even though it's a little bit inefficient sometimes to be growing in this way, we try and mix the different crops that we have together, because of things just tend to be grow better when they're in a bit more of a diverse situation, we found. So there's some of the cherry tomatoes in the background, and we've got a bed of our zinnias. We grow cut flowers, so flowers are a really big part of our crop offering. And again, having them mixed in with the vegetables is fantastic because it increases the sort of attraction of pollinators into the tunnels, which therefore helps with our yields. So here we've got some of our chilies, and you can see they're doing really well, very happy in here. I think sometimes more unusual produce can be a little bit intimidating because people aren't quite sure what to do with it, how to cook it, and so on. But I think essentially a vegetable is a vegetable, and even if the variety is a little bit different, there's often very familiar ways that you can use it. So an example is something like coleslaw, which is a very familiar thing one can eat. Another reason why we grow these weird and wonderful things is because they just taste amazing. And if people can get more joy and pleasure out of eating delicious, unusual things, that's a really, really, really big part of it, is the flavour. We put a lot of effort into building our soil, into making sure that soil is giving our crops really delicious flavours, but also lots of nutrients, which is really good for us all to eat. And so again, some of those unusual things, knowing that they're also good for you and they're exciting and a little bit different, but can be used in familiar ways, is sometimes a great way of getting something a little bit different on your plate.